I've never been to this masjid before, and I'm glad to be here actually. I come from Orange County, Yorba Linda specifically. I'm part of that community at that board. And I'm glad to come out because I get to see Saad, of course, who invited me. Brother Hussein, I haven't seen him forever. I haven't seen Yamin forever. I get to see him. And then I get to meet a new brother, Francisco, which is great. So today I'm going to talk to you about Islamic investing, and then Munther is going to come up here and talk about Islamic financing. So you're going to get both. You know, usually when we go speak throughout the country, I'm speaking about one, and then that's it, right? And then he's speaking somewhere else about finance. But today you have both of them, but it's going to be faster. It's more condensed, so we're going to have to go faster, okay? So you're not going to get everything that I normally give, but you're going to get some of it, inshallah. So, you know, some of what I'll talk about is going to include numbers, returns, right? Percentages, assumptions, real numbers, etc. So just understand that if I keep mentioning 7% return or 10% return, there's never a guarantee of a return in investing. So I'll start off with this. You know, in our lives as Muslims, some of us, from the time we're born, you know, we're like 8 years old, 9, 10 years old, we're fasting, and some of the kids even pray 5 times a day because they come to a center like this. Their parents bring them, they have the love for Allah and, you know, the love for the masjid, and they pray starting at a young age. But many others, it takes them a lifetime before they really establish 5 times daily prayers on time, right? And also, it might take a lifetime for someone to become a haji, right? We just had Hajj recently. So once you do that, then you know you're completing your religion, right? The Hajj, the Siyam, the fasting that you do, the prayer, and so forth. So a couple of things that we don't think about. Are about money. Okay? So we're doing all of the things we're supposed to do that we've been taught, but then we haven't really been taught about those things that we need to deal with money. So for example, now you hear some of the khutbahs talking about earn your money in a halal way, right? Spend your money in a halal way. We know where we can't spend our money. And invest your money in a halal way. What's another thing we have to do with our money though? We have to give it. We have to give it, right, upon our death. And so many of us are not following that practice as well. So for example, any Muslim who has something of value cannot travel for 2 days without having a will or a trust. Did you know that? I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands because that'll implicate you, right? But these are the things we don't know. So how many of us don't have a will? How many of us don't have a trust? Okay? So the will and trust usually go together. If you don't need a trust, maybe you just would have a will. The point is that we have to also learn not only about the things that we've learned about, the foundational things, but also the other things that can get us into trouble, right? Money. So now, going back to the presentation here, some of you have a 401k at work, correct? You guys can focus on me. You don't have to focus on all the stuff that's going on. Because remember, this is going to be fast. So you have a 401k at work maybe? Maybe you have a 529 plan or something like that? So 401k, you're investing in everything that is out there. You're not investing in halal investments, right? So one thing that you could do is you could open up a brokerage account within your 401k and invest in halal things, halal mutual funds. So that's one way to clean up your investments. Also, if you have a 529 plan, you're going to have to learn about that as well. So what are the Islamic investing principles? So the first thing is any company, I'm going up against these guys. It's hard to go up against other people. They can't see your ear?
They cannot see your ear.
Okay.
So if you will be a little bit more descriptive about your, because they're asking, we cannot see the screen.
All right. So with any kind of Islamic investing or Islamic finance, you should have a secondary company or organization or group that's looking in at your process. And the reason for that is, I could sit here and tell you that we're running our funds in a halal way since 1986, which we have been. But then somebody would say, well, but you're also working there. So I like you, I trust you, but shouldn't we have a verification? So Amani Advisors out of Malaysia is that verification. They look at our portfolios, the 4 mutual funds that we have every 3 months, and we have to send it to them, and then they have to send back a certification to us that we're good with it. But what do we do that's different than your 401k you have to take out the things that are haram. For example, banks, insurance companies, buy tobacco, alcohol, gambling, pork products, right? All of these things we have to take out. And then the other, that's the easy part, right? So if you were looking at a company, you would say, all right, I can go buy NVIDIA because it's none of these things. But then you have to look at the financial metrics. So do they have high debt or low debt? Do they have secondary income? For example, if you have an airline, their primary business is transportation, but they also sell alcohol on the plane. The scholars around the world, when they came together under a group called AOFI, they've said that as long as the haram revenues are less than 5%, it doesn't pollute the entire, right? So in our funds, for example, Amana Income and Amana Growth Fund, it's less than 1% total is haram revenues, and then you can purify that further as well. So these are the basics of Islamic investing. But if you don't know that part, then your current money is at risk, right, of being invested incorrectly. But the second thing is, if you don't know about that and you don't know about investing at all, you're not actually taking care of your financial goals. So I'll give you an example. The youngest people in the room here, the young kids, they're going to eventually go to college because in our community, Arab community, right, and Desi community, everyone goes to college, right? Everyone's going to go to college. So if everyone's going to go to college, how are they going to pay for it? So you have to plan ahead. Now you can make it easy on yourself, or you can have difficulty and then say, okay, now my child is about to be 18. How am I going to pay for this now, right? They didn't get a scholarship. What am I going to do? Is it going to be a loan, interest? What is it going to be? The other thing is that we're all going to face, inshallah, is retirement. Whether you want to or not, you may have to retire. And most people don't understand really what's going on with retirement in America. And then there's other things like health savings, right? Like if I want to, for example, to retire when my 401k is available at 59 and a half. Between 59 and a half and 65, I won't have Medicare, right? That means I'll probably be paying $1,500 to $2,000 a month in health insurance. I never thought about that when I was 19 starting up my retirement. I never thought about that. So these are the things that we have to think about. Hajj, these days, how much is Hajj these days? How much does it cost for one person? 15,000, right? When I go to other states, they say 7,000 and 9,000. I guess they have lower price plans in other places where they're going from. But yeah, in California, the plans that are coming from here typically are 10, 12, 15,000. So you can't just say, it's January 2024. Hey, wife Aisha, let's go to Hajj this year. You have to plan for it, right? You're not going to have $30,000, $40,000 sitting in the bank. If you do, that's good. Alhamdulillah. But maybe you took a lifetime to earn that. But instead, what you have to do is get really deliberate about savings. Okay? So what you would do instead is you would come up with what are your financial goals. And you could do this on a piece of paper or on a spreadsheet. What are my financial goals? Maybe all of these are. Okay? And then the second thing you're going to say is, when do I want to accomplish this goal? If retirement's at 62, then I've got 22 years left, or I've got 5 years left. And how much do I want to save for that goal? And then finally, when you have those numbers, what is the goal? When is it going to be? And how much do I need? Then you can figure out how much to put in on a monthly basis. Okay? It's an easy formula, but people are not following it. So I'm going to give you some examples real quickly. And like I said, I'm going to skip by pretty quickly. In 2019, the average college student came out of college with almost $30,000 worth of debt. Biden tried to get everyone, I think, $15,000 or $20,000 wiped out. Supreme Court said no. So if you're holding out on that, that's not going to happen, right now. So if you come out with debt, before you could buy a car, before you could go put a down payment on your home, you already are burdened with the debt. Now, some people are going to come out of college with zero debt. Somebody that's going for, bachelor's, master's, maybe even somebody that's going for become a doctor costs $250,000 that they have in debt. So what you want to do is you want to figure out how you can take care of this for your kids before you get to that point. Now, if you simply save $83 a month, which is $1,000 a year, from age when they're born until they're 18, you can get to almost $35,000, right? The first 3 years, you would have put in $3,000. This is at a 7% assumed rate of return, okay? So if you put in $1,000 a year for 3 years, $83 a month, by the time the child is 3, you will have put in $3,000, and it would have grown to almost 3,200. No big deal, right? That's like, what am I getting out of that? But if you allow this to continue to happen until your child is 18, you will have put in 18,000 by the time the child is 18, but it would have grown to 34,500, under 7%, right? So if you get 9 or 10%, then that gives you even more. Now you could do $2,000 a year, which is what an education savings account allows you to do. It allows you to put in $2,000 per year, and you can do that in a halal way, investing in funds like ours, like Amana mutual funds. So you could choose the education savings account that I was just talking about. If your income's over $190,000, then you're not able to put in the full amount. But this is great because you can use it for even before college. Let's say your child goes to a private high school and you have to pay for that. If you've saved up some money for that, you can use it, and there's no tax on it. So remember, we put in 18,000 on this example. We grew it to 34,000 and 34,500. So there's a lot of capital gains here, right? Normally you would pay tax on that, but since you have college education costs, you don't have to pay tax on that. So that's the benefit there. The 529 plan exists. You can put up to $400,000 into this, so a lot more money. There's no income limit, but there's no halal choices that we know of. So the education savings account allows you to. I already showed you this slide. This one already allows you to put in money, $2,000 per year, in a halal fashion, but it's limiting, right? If you make too much money, you can't put in more than $2,000, etc. But there's also a minor account that you can open and invest money for your child. And this could be for college, it could be to buy their first home, it could be to buy their first car, it could be to get them married, right? It could be anything. And you can put more than $30,000 per year into this one. You can put in $100 a year if you want to, or you can put up to $30,000 per year. So it allows you to save in your child's name. So it will have your name on it with the beneficiary as the child. As I said, I'm going to go fast. So I'm going to talk about retirement now. So a lot of people, when they think about retirement, they think, what will I need to retire? So how much do we need to retire? Do you guys even know? How much do you need? Like if you're 65 and you're going to retire next year, how much of your current income do you need? So financial advisors will tell you 70 to 80% of your last couple of years of income. Okay? So some people will say, well, why do I need so much income? I paid off my house. Well, how much property tax do you have, right? If you own a home. How much is your homeowner's insurance, which is going up significantly? Your car insurance is going up. All these things are going up. You saw how inflation hit us. You can't have a small amount of income or savings in retirement. So in retirement, 79% of the people actually intend to continue working because they don't think that they can fully retire. Or maybe they don't want to. And 29% of the people that actually retired, they did work for pay. So 79% intend to, but only 29% did. And 48% of the people retired earlier than they had planned for one reason or another, right? Maybe health, maybe the job market was bad at the time. So you have 4 different ways that you can retire. One is your own savings. Hopefully you have it. One is a pension plan. Anyone have a pension plan in the room where the government pays for it? One person in the room. That's normal because pension plans used to be there, but they're so expensive that they're no longer there. So you can mark that one off the list, okay? So now you have 3 options. Social Security is another one, and I don't play the scare game or anything. Inshallah, we'll have it, okay? So Social Security is another one, and then employment during retirement if you're going to work. Now, if you're not planning to work and you don't have a pension, you have 2 choices here. You have your own savings and you have Social Security. So let's dig into this. Oops. The average Social Security check in America in 2022 was $1,673. In 2023, it's $1,800 plus. Okay, they actually moved it up nicely. So let's call it $1,800. $1,800 is the monthly average Social Security check. 40 million Americans get Social Security, retirement Social Security right now, which is, I think, a huge number. We have 300 and some million Americans. 40 million get retirement Social Security. Can you live off of that or 1,800? Because the apartment, 1-bedroom apartment in this area, how much is it, brother?
1,500.
1,500. You guys are lucky. I mean, that's not as bad.
A 1-bedroom is 900.
Oh, no.
One bedroom. Oh no, 1200. Yeah, 1200.
Anybody else have any guesses?
I know, I own the building, so I know what's the
How much is it?
One bedroom is Taurus is 2100.
2100, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because it used to be, 1200, 1500, 1600, like even in Anaheim, we have a refugee resettlement agency,
No
so
idea.
we're not spending anywhere less than $1,900 for one bedroom, right? And that's like we're really having to search for these refugees to put them in, but it's usually $2,000, $2,100 for one bedroom apartment. So imagine now you are used to a 3-bedroom house that you're renting for $3,000 a month now. Okay, like what is it going to be in the future? Or you downsize and you go to a 1-bedroom apartment. Well, right now it's $2,000 a month, so you can't make ends meet. So I think ICNA, you guys do a lot of ICNA Relief does a lot of food pantry distributions and things like that. Our organization Uplift Charity is going to do one next week. We get 450 families coming every time, right? Every month. And when we started that at that masjid, I don't know, like 10 years ago, we were getting 80. And like, think about that. Like, people don't want to come get free food unless they really have to, right? These are the numbers, even though, the unemployment rate is pretty low. It is quite low. So we also get a lot of elderly people coming, and that's because they don't have enough income. So what we have to do is we have to figure out what do we want to do to save for retirement. So one way to do it, if you're young, is if you're 25 years of age, and again, I'm going to use the assumption of a 7% rate of return. Okay, so some years it's 0, some years it's 20%. I'm saying average 7% per year. So a 25-year-old, if they put in $500 a month, which is $250 a payroll, into an IRA, by the time, so it's $6,000 a year. From age 25 to 65, they do this for a 7% rate of return. How much money have they put in? $6,000, 40 years, 6 times 4, 240,000, right? They put in 240,000, but it grew to almost 1.3 million. So, but if you waited for 10 years, that 35-year-old, when they finally start, they only missed 10 years of putting in 6,000 a year. So how much did they miss? 60,000, right? They missed putting in 60,000 compared to the 25-year-old. But because they didn't start early enough, they're going to have half of what the 25-year-old will eventually have. So starting earlier helps you to compound your return. So, the Chinese say the best time to plant a fruit tree is when? When is the best time to plant a fruit tree? You guys know? No, nobody wants to even give me a guess today, huh? So usually people tell me it's the springtime, but springtime is a good time, right? I just planted one that was in a pot that started growing by itself, and it's a bad time. It's like dying every day. I have to keep watering it every day, right? So, but the best time to plant a fruit tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. Because you got to get started. Okay, if you want to get the harvest, it's better if you would have done it a long time ago, right? It's the same thing here. The best time for you to have gotten started was 20 years ago. But if you haven't done it, the best time now is today. So what happens when you're 45 versus 25 with your income? Is it usually higher? So if it's higher, you can put in more money, right? So this calculation here is based on the performance, the 7% return, or higher or lower. It's based on how much you put in, and it's based on time. Those are the 3 factors. You can change any of them. You can wait, you can start early, you can put more money in. It's up to you. So if you go to Google and punch in retirement savings calculator, you can say, I need to get to $1 million by retirement. How do I get there? I'm 42 years old. It'll tell you how much to save on a monthly basis. I recommend doing this. Like, if you don't do this, what are you going to do? You're going to live off of your Social Security? Like, you're going to go live with your kids? Your kids are 10 years right now. You're assuming they're going to be wealthy enough with a big enough house that they're going to be able to keep you, right? You're going to have to take care of this yourself. Why do we need $1 million? Why can't we just have, like, the 45-year-old that became 65 and he had 260,000? Why can't we just have 260,000? Isn't that enough? Is that enough? Is that enough? 260,000 in retirement? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, because I'm asking the question, so you know it's a no, right? So the reason it's a no is, let's say you have $20,000 worth of Social Security income a year. Not enough. So you need another $50,000 a year, right? So if you need $50,000 more from your retirement account, when is this going to run out? $50,000 a year on 260,000, you're going to run out in like 6-7 years, right? 6 or 7 years, you're going to run out. Now, the average person is living well into their 70s and 80s. So, there's a good likelihood that you could get there. So you have to plan for this. Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in fact, said, live your life as if you'll live forever. And practice your deen as if you'll die tomorrow. Right? Make up your fasting, make up all of those things. But continue to live. Continue to plan. Continue to do things as if you'll live forever. Don't quit. Don't give up. So now, let's look at this a little bit further. I usually don't stop this long on here, but I still have some time. So, if you have $1 million in retirement, and you pull out just the return, the average return of 7%, how much can you pull out on $1 million, 7%? 70,000, right? You can pull out 70,000 a year, and add that to your 20,000 of Social Security. Now you have 90,000. Is your $1 million going to go down? No. You just created a personal endowment. Masjids and organizations, they create endowments, right? You want to create your own personal endowment if you can get there. Now, some of you have already given up. You're like 58, and you're like, I'm going to retire at 62. Okay. But whatever you put aside is going to be useful later. So now we're going to go ahead here. If you are a 65-year-old man today, you have a 50% chance that you'll reach 85. If you're a 65-year-old woman upstairs, you have a 50% chance that you'll reach 88. So you have to have enough money. You have to have enough money. Now, you can put money into a traditional IRA and get the tax benefit now, or you can put it into a Roth IRA and take the tax benefit later. What do I mean? If you put money into an IRA account, you will not pay any tax. You're going to get money back in your taxes. If you put money into a Roth IRA, you're not getting any money back on your taxes. So why would anyone want to do the Roth IRA? Let me tell you that. If you have this money and you're pulling out $70,000 a year on your million, if you have a traditional IRA, it's going to count as income. So you're going to pay tax on the entire amount, okay? You might be in a lower tax bracket, but you're still going to pay tax. If you're in a Roth IRA or Roth 401k and you pull out $70,000 a year or whatever number, you pay zero tax because you didn't take the benefit before. Let's say you get to 60 years old and you have $1 million and you won't put all of it out. You want to just take it all out. You want to go buy a house or pay off your house or whatever you want to do. Don't advise that, but maybe you do that, right? On the traditional IRA, it's going to show up as $1 million worth of income. So you're going to get taxed on the graduated level all the way up. So the last portions of money, the last $500,000 will be like 50% with federal and state. With Roth, you're not going to have any tax, right? So that's why you want to do this, and then I think I'll just end. The trust services where I'll end here, right? Because I'm the president of Saturna Trust Company as well. And with the Saturna Trust Company, now when you create your trust with an attorney, you can have Saturna Trust Company, our company, be the corporate trustee. So right now, if I create my own trust, I have one, I can either name some relatives to take care of my minor children if I pass away before they become 18. And then I can also have somebody manage my money if both myself and my wife die. If I die first, my wife will manage the account, the trust. But if we both pass away, somebody else has to manage the trust, right? So now I name 2 people in my family. Let's say neither of them really know how to do this, or they're more emotional, or they just don't know how to do it, right? So that's why you have corporate trust services. The other thing that you have trust services for is, let's say you have a child. Like we have this case in Texas, 2 kids. Their father passed away. The uncle's taking care of them. One's now 17, one's 15. They have $500,000, $250,000 each. But the uncle says that I don't think that I should give them all the money when they turn 18. So he just created a trust for each one, and he made us the trustee. So now what we have to do is, once they become 18, they get some money. Once they go to college, we give them some money. Once they turn 25, we're going to manage it. And then that way he doesn't have to have the pressure either that the kids are saying, how come I can't have my money? They have to call us, and we'll say the reason why they can't have the money. So anyway, I'll leave it there. I don't think I have time for questions, but maybe we can do that at dinner time. And I'll turn it over to Munther on guidance, inshallah. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Is there any way we can get this PPT?
This presentation?
Yeah.
Ask me at dinner and I'll show you. I I've left some paperwork here for the education savings account and the IRA if you want to learn more about it. There's no applications in it, but you can learn more about it yourself.
Put on your phone because the lady got upstairs. They can't see you. Only hear you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum. Can you hear me? Inshallah. Okay, shukran, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Owais. Inshallah. Assalamualaikum. Well, my name is Munther. I'm the Vice President, Region Manager for the West Region, for the West Coast Region with Guidance Presidential. I don't think that's that. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Yes. For the system, just to start with, actually, we have actually with us from our team is the system of tasks up there, inshallah. If for some reason I was not able to explain it well, inshallah, she can help the sisters up there for any clarifications or inshallah more details with her. And Sister Munther, you can raise your hand so the sisters can see you, inshallah, there. How many of you heard about guidance presidential? Okay, good number. Perfect. So, what we're going to discuss, inshallah, is about Islamic home finance, and that's specifically what we discuss, inshallah. And we'll discuss about the riba and what's within Islam and so on. And I'm going to start with, the first slide, which is comes and says Islam and riba. And there's the verse in the Quran, which is in Surah Al-Baqarah, where it says, those who take unlawful interest will stand before Allah on the day of judgment, as those whose minds have been corrupted by the influence of Satan. They say that commerce is just like interest, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made commerce a lawful and forbidden interest. And I want to really take this ayah because it is really important ayah, because if you take one part of that ayah, which is where it says Allah, they say that part of it, they say that commerce is just like interest. And this claim is not a new claim. It's not something that is from newly basically years or so on. This is from the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and even from before. They have been always people that they call interest is like trade, but Allah has allowed trade and forbidden interest and riba. And this is something really I think that we need to take in consideration when we try to look at things in perspective and say, for example, they look the same. And Allah, He said it, He called it, they look the same. But there is a thin line between this is what is allowed and what's not. Inshallah, we'll go and come more in details why this is allowed and why that's not allowed, inshallah. And on who you are already in interest, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He mentioned that in Surah Al-Baqarah as well. All who believe, fear Allah and give up what remains of your demand of riba, if you are indeed believers. If you do not, take notice of word from Allah and His Messenger. And who wants from us a word from Allah Azza wa Jalla on the day of judgment? Because we want to deal with riba and because we want to make an extra or save an extra couple $100 here and there. And this will continue, but if you turn back and you shall have your capital sums deal not unjustly and shall not be dealt with unjustly. So you can keep your capital and return the extra interest, inshallah. And this is also the riba and the issue of interest has been mentioned also from in the other economic faiths. And I'm just going to quote one line from here from Exodus, and where it says, if you lend money to one of my people among you who is needy, do not be like a money lender, charge him no interest. And this is, as we mentioned, from the time of even other in the Torah or in the Bible, and even our founding fathers here in this country. We can see many quotes come here and saying, so for example, Benjamin, he says, rather go to bed without a dinner than to go to rise in debt. And you can see now that's where we're going with this country in now. We have almost every family has a debt in one way or another. Whose guidance? I'm just going to give you a summary. Whose guidance? Guidance basically has established its business here in 1999. There was a 3 years research and development between involving 18 law firms and our Sharia board, which inshallah we're going to introduce to you, and of course our executive branch, to come up with a product. And alhamdulillah, we were able to launch in 2002. That we launched in 3 states, and I'm just going to focus here only on 2009, where basically the crash of the market at that time. Alhamdulillah, we received huge recognition from the media at that time because we were doing really well compared to the other regular mortgage lenders who are riba-based banks. And inshallah we can talk more and more about this, but I just wanted to give you a little bit about history about who we are. Guidance Residential is part of Capital Guidance, who basically operate in 27 countries. So you know that, and we have 77 offices across the globe. I'm just going to jump quickly here, inshallah. In the United States, we operate in 34 states. You can see the map here, inshallah. If you are interested in any of these states, inshallah, we can help you and do this. And these are of the awards recognitions and from the media, whether it's a Vanguard, this is awards, the Vanguard Award or the Best Islamic Financer in 2018 and 19, and this is some of the media exposures and so on, especially in 2009 when they came and they started to write some articles about the Islamic finance and why it's different and why it survived after that crash at that time. And this is our Sharia board. The chairman of our Sharia board is Mufti Muhammad Taqi Osmani. He is the head and the chairman of our board, and he is basically the one with the board who developed this product, and they come up with and they oversee all our transactions basically. And of course, I don't want to go over the the background of every share with them. Inshallah, we can do this later on. But I'm going to go and jump into this, inshallah, which is the fatwa, or which is the aqd, or the aqd between Guidance Residential and it is, the consumer, or the bank, the conventional banks, and so on. And that is the main document that really what makes things halal or haram. It's when you go and sign with, for example, if you decided to go on to Bank of America and you take a loan from there, what you sign there is something called a promissory note. And that promissory note says that they lend you, let's say for example, a $500,000, and you are going to pay on top of that, let's say 5% interest. And that is Islamically called paying money on the money, which is riba, and that is where it becomes haram and it's not allowed Islamically. So lending money is always permissible, but you cannot make money of lending that money on there. There are some other means to make money, and Allah Azza wa Jal allowed us. It gave us an option. So in Islam, it's not like it's haram and you cannot. For example, you cannot eat pork. You cannot eat any meat. You can eat different meats, but you cannot eat pork, for example. And the same thing here. You cannot deal with an interest transactions, but there are different transactions where you can do your business and you can go and jump into this, inshallah. And that is the main focus on this, is what is your contract you are signing on. That is something that you need to keep up. to keep in mind when you are signing your contract. And inshallah, I'll give an example of this later on, but inshallah I'll try to jump quickly with the time. I know because inshallah I want to finish this because I want to give some time for the Q&As as well. So Brother Owais or myself, we can give inshallah more. AMJA resolutions. We were very proud actually that the Assembly of Muslim addresses AMJA named guidance as and its declining balance ownership program is a permissible path in America for the one who is in need to buy a house. And I'm not sure how many of you have heard of AMJA. Have many of you heard of AMJA?
American jurist.
Yes. So AMJA, just to give you a background, it is around 300-400 scholars across the country, and it is part of this organization. And what they do, every year they take a topic basically and they study it. Well, let's say for example medicine, halal food, Islamic finance, insurance, and these things. And they do their research and issues and so on. And in 2014, they have invited all institutions that will provide home financing, and alhamdulillah, guidance came on top when it came to Islamic home finance. We are actually the only organization that with Amin Housing, who is not a mortgage company, that received the permissible path to own a house without any restrictions or any on dealing with riba, coming up to riba, and so on. What is riba? Okay, and this is like what I mentioned earlier on. Riba is specifically earning money or earning money on money, like making money from money. If I lend you $100,000, I should not expect you to return that to me $101,000. It should be $100,000, $100,000. And why is that? Because money has no intrinsic value, and money is a mean of exchange. What do I mean by that? Is if I have $100, I cannot sell it to anyone for $110. That is considered riba as well. You can't take money. If I want now $100, will you change it for $110? You break it for 20s and 10s and you give it to me for $100? None of you will do that. But if I tell you, okay, I'm going to buy this chair and sell, I have this chair which is basically worth $110, you might be willing to exchange that $110 for that money, which is absolutely what is permissible, isn't here. So loan in general, Islamically is allowed. It's permissible in Islamic as long as you do not make money out of it. And it's always considered a charitable act. It's never been considered a business transactions. If someone basically wants to need, your brother, your family member, your friend wants to buy a car and he approaches you, can you lend me $5,000? If you lend him that money, it is your goodness, you're trying to be good to him and trying to help him. If you did not lend him, nothing really, you're not committing any harm in here. But if you lend him the money, you should never accept any return back on that money. Now, if you want to do business, there are ways to do business. You can trade, you can buy, you can sell, you can lease, you can do different things. There are different types of business transactions where you can go and do your business transactions if you are on that, which is allowed Islamically. The cost of how much you are making, it's never been the issue in an Islamic. Like what do I mean by that? It's not because, for example, I lend you money. Let's say I lend you $100,000 and I return it to you. A Bank of America goes and charge you, for example, 1% interest. That does not make it halal because they only made 1%. Halal, whether it's less or more, it doesn't really matter. It's what is in your contract. Are you signing on something halal or not? Can you take a simple alcohol and say it's halal? You cannot do that. And can you take a bite of pork and say it's halal? It's not halal. So it's not about, or because is it cheaper? If you are thinking of it, because is it cheaper? Because it's not. Pork most likely is cheaper than beef. I guarantee you that. You can go and out that. But it's never been about the cost. It's It's about, are we following what Allah Azza wa Jal has ordered us to do? And I'm going to give a simple example of this so you can make it, inshallah, a little bit more, inshallah, you can absorb a little bit more. So let's assume there is two butcher stores. One is owned by a Muslim and one is owned by, let's say, a Buddha man. Both are good gentlemen and they have clean butcher stores and they deal with the animals humanely, they slaughter them normally and so on. So you take a sheep and you take that sheep, you slaughter it at the Buddha store. You take it to that person and he goes and he slaughters it. He used a knife and he slaughters it and he cut it the way that you want to cut it and take it. Can you eat that meat? The answer is no. The same exact sheep, if you take it to his neighbor, and because he's just a Muslim, he will slaughter it the same exact way, that meat became halal. And you can eat it. And the reason you are doing that, it is because it is not always the end results. The end results is the meat. But the process, how do you get there? Are you following the commands of Allah? Are you following the process to get there? And this is where it's many times it's missed by, when especially it comes to a business transactions and money transactions, as Brother Owais mentioned earlier, we don't pay attention that much sometimes to our business transactions, the money transactions, whether how we invest, buy, even sometimes what we wear, what we want to buy and something is halal, it's haram, all these things. So money is something really serious that it can bring you, can put you in haram or it can put you in a halal way. And especially when you are dealing with riba, it can put you as basically in front of Allah in the day of judgment, against Allah. Who wants to hold the sword of the day of judgment and fight Allah on the day of judgment? None of us would be in that situation. And this is just the methods of Islamic home finance in general. Of course, it's not limited to this, but the majority of it is like that. It's the murabaha, and this is the most famous model, especially in the Islamic world. Okay, the murabaha. What's the murabaha? It's like you buy, let's say I buy a house for $100,000 and I sell it for you for $150,000. That's the model. Okay. The second model, which is the musharaka partnerships. And by the way, the musharaka partnerships, there are two different types of partnerships. The majority, most of the times, we think of musharaka is like, you know what, I have a grocery store with my brother. He owns 50%, I own 50%, and he is owner 50%, I own 50%, and then we make the same money and so on. Well, this is not the case. In the musharaka, there are two types of musharakas. There's one is called business ventures, which is sharakatul aqd, and the second one, which is assets ownerships, which is sharakatul mulk, that is the musharaka, that guidance currently that we use, and that you can even customize the terms of the sharakatul mulk in the way that will benefit one person in one way and benefit the other person in a completely different way. And that is absolutely something that's allowed, isn't there? And then there is also the ijara, which is the lease form. Guidance residential itself and our Sharia board determined as actually basically is musharaka is the best contract should be dealt with in the United States. And the reason is because the murabaha contract put a lot of constraints basically on the consumers. That's number one. Like I give you an example. Just a quick example. For example, if I buy a property today is $100,000, and I want to make, let's say, on it, let's say 7%. Just maybe I'm going to go and sell it to you at 100 on 20 years, and I'm going to sell it to you at 150,000. And you decided to sell that property after a year. How much are you going to sell it for? There is no way that you are going to sell it for 150,000 because it did not really appreciate that much. So you're going to end up losing. That's one. The second is the United States laws and the dealing with some of the state laws, and also the secondary market, which is Fannie and Freddie Mac, which is on government institutions, has been established there. They do put some kind of restrictions on certain things that makes the Murabaha contract, it is almost very difficult to be a Sharia compliant in a way or another. And anyway, just what we are using is just giving you the ijara is basically you lease something, and at the end, if you want to buy it, buy it. If you don't want to buy it, you don't buy it. It's not just lease only. It's just like you have no ownership in that property. The benefit of musharaka, why? Because some of the things that we do in our musharaka contract and some of the things that we take, there are some of the things that when it comes to Islamic finance in general, there has to be some risk taking to be able to have that contract justifiable and be Islamically sound and so on. And some, for example, the risk that is listed here is non-recourse commitment. For example, in the event of default, and you default, and the banks will go and they sell your property, for example. Let's say that you bought the property at $500,000, and you owe the bank $450, and your share is $50,000, but you owe the bank $450. But then when they sold it only for $400,000. The bank, what usually happens is they take the $400,000. And they go after you for the $50,000, the remaining money. And what we call it recourse commitment. They go after you. So even unless like you go and you declare bankruptcy, which will be damaging, really very damaging for you on the very long term. So what they do, and they can move. By the way, even if you don't have the money today, and which happens in 2008. There are some people, for example, went to work after 2 or 3 years to work. So the judge at that time, some of these banks, they took some of these deficiency, they went to the court and they took a deficiency judgment against these people. And after 2 or 3 years, they went after them and said, you know what, you owe us some of this money. So now, it's not you just lost your home, but you also debt as well in there. So that's that recourse commitment. Alhamdulillah, guidance does not have that recourse commitment, and if we lose the money as well. That shared risk as well. What do I mean by that is in case of a natural disaster, California is known for natural disaster, for example, fire or earthquake, especially let's say recently the fires. And so there are sometimes neighborhoods close and completely it will be wiped out completely by fires and so on. What happens, most these homes are insured, and actually no lenders will leave you without an insurance. But what happens is the insurance most of the times they don't really cover the whole medical needs. So they come, for example, the same example, let's say the house was $500,000, you owe the bank $450. Let's say the insurance goes and give you $400,000. The bank will take the $400,000 and they will go after you with that remaining money. Now, in case of guidance, I'm just going to give an example, and this is some of the difference Islamically why it's different. The net proceeds, because it's not a fault of you or a fault of us that the house has got burned. It's not you are the one who's the reason for that. This is the act of God and Allah Azza wa Jalla, and that's what happened. So that is not because of your mistake. It's not because of our mistake. So we should share some of that responsibility. Islamically, we should be able to share that sometimes responsibility. So what we do is what? That policy, let's say the insurance company, they give you $400,000. If you own 10% of that property, which is basically like that, so from the 400, you will take $40,000, and guidance takes 90% of that, which is $360, and we lose the remaining as well. That is something no one else in the whole country does that except guidance. So of course, there is no prepayment penalty, and of course, it is approved by our Sharia board on top of all of this. This is a short video, and actually, I think that I have internet connection, and it's 2 to 3 minutes. Will not be able to do it, but I will be more than happy to share it and send it to you, inshallah, or inshallah, about this. And this is just to show you how this model works. In a mortgage loan, usually here, if you look at this, You go buyer, you go and the home buyer arrange for a home loan from the mortgage company according to the fixed or floating interest rate. That's what they do. So they go on, they sign a contract. You remember that contract we say that I owe you money and that's it. With us, we go and we buy with you that property. So we are co-owners. We are not lending you money. There is no lending agreement between us and you. There is a co-ownership agreement. You will never sign on a lending agreement with us. It's only a co-ownership agreement. So the banks, they will go and they lend you the money 100%. And what they do, you owe them now 100% loan. You own the property 100%, and you owe them the principal plus the interest, whatever that interest, and you will continue to pay it. In the musharaka contract, the model that we do, it's based on the down payment that you're putting. That is your share. So, for example, if you're putting 30%, 10%, 20%, whatever that percentage, that is your share. And the remaining or whatever guidance finance is guidance share. And that's how the co-ownership starts. Then with your monthly payment, and by the way, from the beginning, just to start here, you have a share 30%, you have a share 70%. Here, look at this. You are owner 100% from day one, but you own them the money. That's the difference. That's the main difference is in that contract. Here with your year after year, your monthly payment, after year, your loan continues here to shrink and goes lower. Here, your share in that property continues to grow. You used to be at 30%, now you are at 45%, you're going to be at 60%, and you're going to be at 70% until you basically 100% buy guidance residential share, and here you pay off the contract. Maybe the end results, you own the house, you don't own anyone else, but this is what is Islamically allowed, and this is what is with the transactions standard. This is the main thing, and this is some of the co-ownership benefits. Basically, it's I talked about some few benefits of that, which is of course ownership, riba-free, risk sharing, independent Sharia board course, and so on. One main item actually is an important item actually I want to focus on, which is affiliation with the bank. Alhamdulillah, Guidance Residential is the only organism who is not a bank or affiliated with a bank, and we don't deal with banks. Period. And why we say that? Banks in the beginning of when the company was originally wanting to establish that company, there was the 18 law firms, and there's the Sharia board, and there's the executive board and the owners of the company. So the 18 law firms, and by the way, not attorneys, law firms, they were pushing to start the company as a bank. And the reason is because it's easy to license, easier to get, to borrow money from the feds. You can go and borrow money from the federal government. You can use the customers' deposits. Like, for example, if Muhammad, he goes and deposits, let's say, $100,000 in the bank, by the US law, you can lend 90% of that money to someone else. 90% of that money. And you can borrow against that money 90% as well. 9 times against that money. So you can go and borrow $900,000, and you can at the same time lend that money to someone else. And you can. This is how the benefit. If you heard about the SVP bank that Hawaii collapsed, because they took people's deposits, they invested in something else. They did not invest their money. They did not. So when these people they came and they wanted their money, they didn't have any money, and that's why it was a horrible situation for them. So they had to go out of business within a day. That's it. So at that time, the discussion was, if we go that route, then the banking associations requires from banks to facilitate, to deal with lending. And lending in the US is only 100% is based on riba. And that is against what we are establishing the company for. We want to go completely against, inshallah, we'll finish in 2 minutes, inshallah. And that is absolutely against what we wanted to go as, which is fighting the Rida from its roots, from the source of it. That is part of what we need to do. Because the banking association, there are 2-3 disadvantages for any Muslim organization if you want to do that. Number one, you have to lend money. That's number one, which is based on that. And then the second thing is, you have to finance businesses that they do haram stuff. I give you an example. If the liquor store next door, that neighborhood, they have sound financials, and they come to that bank and they said, we need a loan, you cannot reject it. That would be considered discrimination. So you cannot reject it. So now I'm financing a liquor store, I'm financing a casino, I'm financing, a bookstore, and then it becomes like I'm selling a Zamzam water in a liquor store. That's what it is. It's because they want to provide one item, and I'm selling it at a liquor store. So that's why, alhamdulillah, we did not want to establish our company as a bank or to be affiliated with a bank. And we are the only organization that is not a bank or affiliated with a bank. And I really want to focus on this because this is important when it comes to purity, when it comes to that. And I know that we ran out of time. It's just like there are 2 quick questions that I want to ask and clarify. There is the relationship is sometimes with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. That is also, which is we call it the secondary market in general for all the mortgage companies in general. These are just I want to clarify. These are not banks. These are pure investors were chartered by the Congress to create liquidity to the market. Like, for example, Bank of America, all these banks, all these mortgage companies, they don't have enough cash to go and lend people money. And in the 70s, they were not able to facilitate home ownership for all American families. So what they did, they used to charge a very high interest, like we say 15%, 20% interest. Your financing is like 10 years, 15 years, 7 years. You put 20, 30, 40%. There is nothing called 5% down payment, 10% down payment. Minimum is 20, 30, 40% down payment. So it was only the people who are able to buy, is only the people who are really capable, or rich people that were able to buy homes. And that was something that the Congress has created. They created multiple organizations called Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They created these organizations are chartered by the Congress to create liquidity to the funds. They are not banks. They are barred from lending any money. They cannot lend you money, and they are not a bank to start with. So you cannot go and deposit money and so on. So these are some of the things that inshallah I will clarify more, but I don't want to take much more of your time. I know it is 9:28, and I promise that I'm going to finish 9:30. Hopefully that we can, inshallah, we'll leave it. This is just like to give you an idea how the organization works. Table. This is just based on, let's say, for example, this is like a 15 years organization table for $100,000. And of course, now there's no homes for $100,000, but we just made this as an example, and that was like while back. So let's say, for example, you start with $100,000. Your scheduled monthly payment is $655. Okay, and the acquisition will be, for example, this is just an example because based on the profit rate, how much is it, and so on, it will continue to change. The acquisition was, for example, $467, and the profit was $187. So your share was started with a 20%. Now, after that month payment, your share jumped to 20%, 0.37. So the next month, you start with 99,000. Okay, that because why? Because some of that money went to buying some of that share from us. Now, if you look at, for example, after let's say 12 months, your share became 24%, 24.5%. After let's say 60 months, your share became let's say 43%. After 180 months, which is 15 years, your share became 100%, and that's how we consume or we take the whole full ownership of that product. And I will finish with this, and definitely will be available for Q&A later on. We just want you to make sure that you have the dinner and finish right there, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.